is going on, Pitch Strike Chronicles? I am Uncle Tats. I'm here with Rob and Donald, as always. And we are watching a team that, despite the lineup, is starting to actually find a way to get everything to click and put some really solid numbers up on the offensive box score. And it's not from the people that you would expect it from. Yes, of course, as we've come to expect, Judge with another home run. He loves hitting on the road in Seattle. Loves it. But let's give some love to IKF. He has really just he's stepped up. I think he's fully embraced the utility role. He understands what his expectations are with the ball club and the fan base. That we know he's not going to be that all-star shortstop that they tried telling us that he was. But in the utility role, his defense, not a Gold Glover, which is fine. But he's holding his own and keeping his value on this club. So I think that's been a big part of why the Yankees have dominated in this series. Is a big part of it is IKF. How do you guys feel about how IKF has really stepped into his role? Because I think he needs some recognition.
Yeah. Look, I won't go away from what I think we were all feeling. It still would have been a smart decision to let him go and get an actual left fielder. But it took him a little while, but he's finally starting to hit more towards the back of his baseball card. Yesterday, 4 singles, which is fine. His defense in the outfield has actually been plus, which is surprising considering he never played the outfield. But he's, like you said, he's taken the role and he's running with it and he's doing a good job. There's always a spot for a player like him on a roster, not an everyday player, but if you can get this production when he does play, that's great. He's had a really good month. And yeah, after a terrible April and not too great start to May, he ended the month really, really well. So yeah, he's going to get some credit for sure. He deserves it. And he's playing smart baseball. He's not getting himself out on the bases. He's embracing the role. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I'm proud of him, man. I am really proud of him. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to accept that, okay, I'm not the shortstop. And the fact that he was so willingly able to embrace other roles that he could be useful just to help the team says a lot about him as a person and as a professional. And I think that's really important to mold a team. You want guys like that. And there is always a role for someone who can play Gold Glove third base, can play shortstop on a pinch, can play the outfield, even play catcher if asked. I mean, this is a guy that is very, very versatile and has a bit of speed and can get on base and hit singles. And he's a contact guy. We kind of needed that. And with all these injuries and with all the people out and with all the questions all over the outfield and who's going to play left and who's going to play where, and he's stepped up and he's always been available and he's done his job. I have to tip my cap to him. Absolutely tip my proverbial cap to this guy because it's that attitude which is turning things around. I think there's a guys now in that locker room who are like, we're down 2 guys today. Doesn't matter. The expectations are still the same. And I like that. And I like that what IKF has done. And now it actually looks like a bargain to pick up his option because this is a guy can play every day in different roles. Now, he's not an everyday player, but at the moment he's being asked to do it because we've been so hurt. And we've not really suffered. We did at the start, and we were all complaining about it. But to be fair to him, now he's kind of turning around. He's turned the corner. He looks very comfortable in left field. And a shout out to IKF, man. He's a real professional. Another thing is he didn't let the Yankee fans who are criticizing him for playing shortstop get to him. He's just channeled it in the right way. And And that's why IKF is still a Yankee, and Aaron Hicks is no longer a Yankee because Aaron Hicks couldn't channel anything, and he took it all personal, and he lashed out at everyone else, blaming everyone else. IKF had the different attitude. He's like, he had one error, I believe, in spring training. He's like, okay, I ain't the shortstop, and he goes to Aaron Boone. He's like, I know I'm not the shortstop.
Yeah,
but I will play anywhere that you need me to play to help this team. That is the kind of attitude that wins games. It's the kind of attitude that keeps you in ball clubs, and that's why he's forging a solid career now.
What I think for him is, the old saying, the best, accountability is availability. And one of the things, and I know I screwed that up, but
the best accountability, the best ability is availability.
But he's been healthy. You look at this team that's constantly riddled with injuries. I don't think he's been on the IL since he's been in this ball club. I think he's managed to really keep himself healthy. And when you keep yourself available, you open yourself up to actually be a contributor. And I think that's what he's done. We know that he has the Gold Glove at third base. We've talked about that over and over again. But he's put the work in not to embarrass himself or this ball club. And I think that really, I think that says a lot about his, Donald, you used the term, his mental fortitude. I think that he's just one of those guys that he wants to be here. He wants to contribute in any role that's given to him, and he's taking advantage of it. So it's just one of those. We gave him a lot of hell. We put him through the ringer, and he stood in the fire and took it all. And unlike guys like Gallo and Hicks, even Sanchez to a degree, they couldn't handle all the pressure. They couldn't handle the criticism, and it started to really affect their gameplay. IKF has had the opposite. He's like, all right, you don't think I'm a shortstop? I'll find somewhere else where I can at least give you guys something to cheer for. So I think IKF is really becoming that bench player that the Yankees have been needing for so long. They tried it with Wade. It didn't work. I think IKF has stepped into that role. I don't want to say flawlessly, but as close to perfect as we can get.
It should have been his role from the start.
Yeah.
Last year he was asked to be the everyday shortstop. It clearly wasn't working. Although his numbers are eerily similar to what he did in 2021 in less games and less at-bats, he hit the same way you expected him to hit, and his fielding was exactly the same as you expected it because he's not a good shortstop. So the fact that they finally decided, all right, let's do something different, and he's the one who said, let's do something different, and he's running with it. Yeah, he deserves a lot of credit. Overall, his numbers still aren't great, but considering he's got the same average as DJ LeMahieu right now, it tells you a lot about how the 2 months have gone for those players. Lately he's been killing it. And yesterday, 4 singles, but he contributed. What did he have? 4 RBIs, I think, in total, or something like that. So that's a hell of a stat line. If that's how you get the runs in, great. We can use a singles hitter off the bench, and that's, I don't think he's a pinch hit guy. He's still in a playoff game. You probably want him coming off the bench to run, and then maybe a late at bat if he's still in the game. But again, there is a role for that, and it's just taken him a while this year to finally get going offensively. But he's starting to come around to what his usual numbers are.
He also got a standing ovation from Garrett Cole. That doesn't happen every day. You got to earn your standing ovations from Garrett Cole, and he certainly earned that.
Yeah, he doesn't give those out a lot. Yeah, and Spencer even points out he's also got an ERA, 0 ERA.
All right.
It's and what's going on to everybody in the chat? We see you in there, Mazza. And Jason from 161 pop in there. Always love some conversation with Jason. FJ, Booger Brain, Jonathan. I saw you earlier. TC, always fun to have you in the chat. But when you're seeing an offense like this, right? And TC brought it up. That's 10 runs in 3 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at the lineups that they've been putting out, it shouldn't happen. but this team is just really that they're all backing each other up. And I think that they're really playing with a cohesiveness. And I think, that is more than just having star power, like we talked about yesterday with the Padres. If you're not clicking and playing for each other and you're just playing for your own stats and your contract, you can kind of slip a little bit in the production point. But the Yankees are really putting the production up, and it really doesn't matter what lineup they're putting out right now. It's all clicking. They're not trying to expand their role. They're playing within themselves.
And you know what they're also not doing? They're not expanding the strike zone. They had the pitcher work, and he threw like 50 pitches in the first 2 innings. The Yankees worked that count, man. He had almost 40 pitches in the first inning itself. They just worked that count. Worked that count, and that was what really stood out to me, and tired him out, and then got to him, and IKF obviously kind of broke it open with that 2-run single, but it all came from working that pitcher because they saw everything that guy had to offer. Mm-hmm. We saw it all in the first inning. After 40 pitches, we knew everything that he was going to do, and the Yankees had no issue getting to him. And that's what really stood out to me. And that's like old school Yankees. That's the old school Yankees. That's the old school Yankee approach. That is the way to get good pitchers out because he is a very good pitcher. He had a 3.18 ERA going into this game. That's the way in which you do it. Really, especially on the road. That's how you can get starters out. That's how you can really beat up on guys is to work deep counts, draw walks, get singles, just move it on, move it on. And it really was an approach that reminded me of the good days of the Yankees. And that's why we've had such success this series.
You look at the lineup yesterday and you shouldn't be scoring 10 runs, right? It's like you had Torres and Judge and you have a struggling DJ. It's like, what's Willie Calhoun going to do? IKF's in there. You never know what he's going to give you. Bowers, Volpe struggling. Trevino's on an offensive bat. Greg Allen is replacing Bader. And we put up 10 runs. And it was some of the guys that you don't expect. But Torres had a good day. IKF had a great day. Allen had a home run. Willie Calhoun continues to hit. Guys are stepping up. And it just shows what you can do when you just put together good at-bats. And you're just not flailing. Expanding the strike zone is a great point. They don't do that, right? They're not doing that. And they haven't been doing that. So I'm not saying we're going to score 10 runs every game. But when we get couple of our guys back, it's going to be even better. So this is a good sign, and it's just finally like when you see a strike hit it, that was the philosophy the last 2 years, but they weren't really following that the second half of last season and earlier this year. It's like they were just swinging at anything. Now they're swinging at good pitches. They're taking pitches. They're taking what the pitcher's giving them, and they're hitting good pitchers. These last 2 nights, Seattle's rotation, these are 2 good guys they're throwing out there, and we're hitting them. And it's not just the same 2 people doing it. It's Judge, of course, but like you're seeing IKF get hit. You're seeing Calhoun put Bowers the other night. Greg Allen. Different people are stepping up, and it's just very simple baseball. See a good pitch, swing and hit it, and it's working.
Yeah, you were even seeing, and it's about time the 200 plus people they have in the analytical department actually figure out the opposing pitcher. But no, you're seeing that they're stretching out the at bats. Like I had went on a rant a few weeks ago when they were just starting pitches were getting into the 5th inning with under 40 pitches, and I lost my mind, and it was about time that they actually were paying attention to us because 9 out of 10 times, whatever we predict is going to happen will happen, and whenever we scream for something to be fixed, they'll usually address it because they know they know who to listen to, but. You're seeing the expansion, like you said, Rob. They're not swinging. They were taking away the breaking ball, and they were just sitting on the fastball. So they were able to really stretch the at bats, even if they were going down 0-2. These last couple of games, you didn't feel like the at bat was over. They look very comfortable at the plate. It's like, all right, you got 2 strikes on me, all right. But now try to get the 3rd. And I think that attitude really carries over from at bat to at bat.
Just look at the box score of the last two games: 30 hits and 20 runs in the first two games of this series. It really just says it all about their ability just to take what the pitcher's giving them and just getting on base, driving in singles, and then you've got Aaron Judge, who's just Superman. So I've really been impressed with this series.
It's what's going on, MH. We see you sneaking in the chat. Damian Serrano, welcome to the chat. All right, it's. I don't think there's really too much to really overanalyze with this offense, other than what we've been talking about. The patient at bats, staying in your role, and not trying to replace the stars that are on the IL. And let's talk about how this, the Bader injury can affect the alignment in the outfield and the lineup itself. Because I had predicted yesterday, I didn't think it was going to be on IL stint. I thought with the off days, they would just let him sit for a couple. But when you heard the news that he was going on the IL, it really was like, okay, now what do you do? Because I think losing somebody like Bader, that was such a spark plug. What do the Yankees do now? Is because obviously it's going to lead IKF to getting more time in the outfield, and not that we're complaining about it, but it's not what we signed up for.
Well, Stanton will be back Friday, most likely. And he said it yesterday in an interview he wants to play the outfield more, so you might see more Judge in center. You can see Greg Allen. He's perfectly capable of playing center field for 2 weeks. They called up Cordero, which surprised me for like a day, like 2 days, and then they'll send him down. But it's just going to have to be Judge and Allen playing center field, and then you can have Stanton play the outfield a little bit when he comes back in the corners. I think 2 weeks is what they said for Bader, so we were able to survive for a month without him. Maybe we can survive for 2 more weeks. Hopefully Greg Allen can get some production up there, but it is tough losing him. I'm glad they didn't prolong it, though, because a lot of the times they tend to wait and be like, oh, we'll give him a few days, and they just retroactive to this date, and he's off for another week. I'm glad they just got it over with, because you knew it was going to happen. Like, you knew it was going to be an IL stint. There's no way they could have said he's not going to make this. Just get it out of the way. And luckily, we're getting some reinforcements, if you want to call Donaldson a reinforcement. We are getting some bats back before the Dodgers series. So if Stanton is swinging the way he usually does, you can replace Bader's production with that bat easily. And hopefully Donaldson can put some good at-bats together, maybe because DJ's not hitting right now. If Donaldson can try to be somewhat better than him, you can find a way to replace Bader. But energy-wise, I don't know if you can. You can't replace that.
It's brutal. That's brutal news. But let's listen. This is the season. We know this is how this year's going to turn out. Now people are going to get hurt a lot, and it's about navigating it. And I have to give the Yankees some credit. The fact that they haven't rolled over and given in, like they're beating up on the Mariners, who are not a bad team at all, and score 20 runs on 30 hits, and they're doing it with some key guys out. And it's Aaron Judge carrying the load, and then he's getting a good support cast that are doing their roles. So that's great. But I really do think that we're going to miss Bader. There's no doubt about that. He's one of the best center fielders in the game, and he's been a big part of why the Yankees have turned things around. So we can't just look too much into this game. Oh, we're going to be fine. I really don't know about that now, but we shall see. We're going to lose a lot defensively. That's 100% sure. It's just this also makes you think about Bader's extension. Now, Bader, we talk about Bader should just get an extension, but then you're thinking, my God, he's hurt like most of the time. There's a lot to think about. This seems to be a common trend with this Yankee team. They can't seem to get a healthy team, and it's really frustrating. It really is frustrating. These hamstring injuries have been going on all year long. I don't know if it's a medical staff issue. I don't know what it is, or if it's just injury-prone players. I don't know what it is, but it's uncommon, the amount of injuries that we're having, muscle pulls, hamstrings. It's happened a lot. all fall so far this year.
Yeah, the one thing I brought up in the Yanks Morning Brew chat yesterday afternoon with TC and Hector was, and I'll ask you guys, do you give Bader just a qualifying offer as opposed to an extension? For these reasons, if he does sign elsewhere, you get the compensatory pick. If you do keep him, it's only for 1 year, and it'll give a little wiggle room for the guys like Dominguez and Spencer Jones to continue to kind of develop just a little bit tighter. And it's only a 1 year deal, so if you need to move on, it's not going to hurt you long term. If the kids for the outfield are truly ready to make an impact, what would you guys do with the qualifying offer with Bader? Do you think that's the way that the Yankees should go?
I guess. There's no doubt he would take it if that's the case, because if he's still hurt, and it's going to be a lot of money because I think it was like 19 last year. It could be over 20 this year. I don't know if they would do that with both him and Severino, because I feel like they're both guys that can get that qualifying offer and could potentially both accept it. But if you want to keep him around, let's say he comes back in 2 weeks and finishes the season healthy, then you probably entertain that idea, because then Dominguez will be ready sometime next year. Jones will be ready sometime late next year, early 2025. So it allows you to, give them time. But do you want to pay $20 million a year or more to a guy that can't stay on the field? And that's the issue with both him and Severino. So I think if you can extend him for like a couple of years, make a 3-year deal for less money per year, that might be the best way to go. Because even if he does get hurt, it's like, well, we're not paying him $20+ million. So but I don't know how much he would want, because he's going to want to get a deal as well. He's going to want his money. But they definitely will give him that offer just in case he leaves. They'll get the pick. There's no doubt they'll give him the qualifying offer. At least they should. But every year there's always like a few players that actually take it. I think he would take it. He's got to stay on the field, though.
Yeah, Rob nailed it right there with the end. I'd give him a 3-year deal with less money than his qualifying offer. I think that's a win for both sides. That's what I would do. 3 years is not a lot to eat. He'd still be very productive over that 3 years, and it's still kind of low risk as well. That's what I would do. I think that would be a smart way of handling this situation, where you still give Bader the benefit of the doubt because he's so important to this team, so good, but then also you're kind of edging on the side of caution with his constant injuries.
Yeah, because I brought up the 1 year scenario just because of, with Spencer and Dominguez, do you want to lock up anything in that outfield? So that's what made me think on that mindset. But I can see them doing like a 3-year, $15 million plus for the 3. Maybe a team option thrown in there. I'd be fine with that. But I wouldn't want to go if the qualifying offer ends up being in the 20s. I think I would actually pull the qualifying offer from Bader. I think for an injury prone player, as much of it as an impact he is when he's healthy, I don't know if I want to invest that kind of money into somebody I might see, for only 2/3 of a season.
But you want that pick. You want that compensatory pick, though, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. It's a tricky situation.
They'll give him the offer because they should. You only get the offer if you're with the team for a full season, so he's going to get the qualifying offer. And even if a team does sign him, we'll get a pick for him. So it's not like the end of the world. But you also don't want to go into next season needing both a left fielder and a center fielder, because you don't know if Dominguez is going to be a left fielder or center fielder. I think he can play center, but he's probably going to be a left fielder at the major league level. And then you're searching for a center fielder. At least if Bader is healthy, there are a few that are better than him out there in center. Offensively, he's obviously not the best, but defensively, he is one of the best center fielders in baseball. Yeah. So look, if you gave Aaron Hicks $10 million a year for one good season, I think giving Bader 3 years for maybe 15. I don't know what it's going to take, but that's just a rough number. It might be worth the risk instead of 1 year, 20 plus, taking up a huge chunk of your payroll for a guy that might see the IL when you already have Stanton, who's more than likely going to hit the IL as well at some point next year, making a lot of money. So again, it's still a long time from now, but something to think about.
Yeah, Commissioner of the Pitch Chronological. I'm gonna come down with that.
MH, my agent MH. Get to work.
Have your people call my people. That's all.
Getting done.
Let's throw this question out there, and it's interesting. If Rodon can play Game 2 in a wild card series, but it's his first start, would you do it?
Oh God, no.
No. Not for his first start. There's no way. I can't put that. I can't put that on the team. I can't put that pressure on the offense, and I don't want to put that pressure on Rodon.
If that's his first start, then we have a real issue with that injury. Because we're talking about he could be back in July, early July, or by the All-Star break, maybe. If he's not pitching until October, then you have a legitimate concern about that back flaring up or his arm. So I don't even want to talk about his injury because every time I feel like I bring up something bad goes, I'm just going to stop talking about him altogether. We'll see him when we see him.
Yeah, I really don't have any expectations of when he's coming back right now. But Donald, what do you think?
It's never a good sign when you're like, oh, he's not feeling any pain, but he doesn't know when he's going to be on the mound again, when he's going to throw. And it's like, well, that's reassuring. That's what you want to hear from your $100 million pitcher. So, listen, I don't know, man. I think we can only deal with what we're seeing right now. Let's talk about Nasty Nestor.
Yes.
What did you think about Nestor Cortes?
I think it goes to pretty much what Rob broke down yesterday. He's one of our best 4-inning pitchers. Once he gets to that next part of the order, that third turn, things just seem to crumble on the kid, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. But I think that he was figuring out how to incorporate a lot of his pitches yesterday and keep the offense off balance. So I'll take that as a plus.
He gave you 2 runs. It could have been a lot worse. Like immediately in the 5th inning, he gives up a walk. You're like, here we go. And it could have been a hell of a lot worse. I can't explain it. I said it yesterday, it's the most puzzling thing I think I've seen in a very long time. Because if it happens once or twice, you're like, all right, that's the analytics are in favor of a team they're gonna get you the third turn through. But every single time, like he has the worst ERA in the 5th inning or later in baseball. And his ERA in the first 4 innings is like a 2.2 or something like that. Like it doesn't make sense. I don't know how you go from being so good to so bad. Like if there was a middle ground where he was giving up a couple of runs here and there, you're like, that's just baseball. The stats justify that. But I've never seen this where a guy just goes from being lights out to unwatchable, unusable. Mm-hmm. It's like he forgets how to pitch. It's like in Space Jam where they take the talent out of you. It's like that's what's happening in the 5th inning. The Monstars are sucking the talent out of him in the 5th inning on because he looks different. His velocity's down. His arm angles are different. The location's awful. His command is awful. And he just looks lost. And I think it's in his head. It's like it might be a mental thing right now. Like he's just like, I can't do this right now. I got to get out of the 5th inning. And then he struggles and it just becomes another. He has said it himself. He doesn't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what it is. So what is it? Is he tipping pitches? Because why isn't he doing it in the first 4? But in the 5th inning, he just starts to tip his pitches. Like, what is it? And I still don't have an answer for it.
Okay, so I really studied his outing yesterday. There's a few things that I picked up on. In the, I would say 4th, 5th inning, he wasn't finishing his pitches. He wasn't landing and he wasn't bringing the pitches down. It wasn't finishing. It was floating up. It was floating up a lot. And so that's a finishing issue. That's someone where he's not really completing his motion. on the mound. And I'm not going to take the full credit for that because Jeff Nelson also pinpointed that. He's brilliant, by the way. He's the best.
Really
he
good.
needs to be doing this every day. He's phenomenal. He really knows his shit. He knows his pitching, and you can definitely tell. So, like, he really went into depth about Nestor Cortes, but you could also just see it with yourself, with your own eyes. Like, he wasn't finishing his pitches as once he kind of reached that 80 pitch mark. Some of his pitches were floating up at the top of the zone. Another thing I noticed was he actually has a very effective changeup, but he's not using it enough. And I don't quite understand that. That might be something that he needs to work. He actually needs to start using more because he got some key strikeouts with his changeup. That's a good pitch for him, but he's overusing his cutter. And I've been saying this. I said this yesterday. These batters are sitting on it because all he's doing is a four seam plus a cutter, and that just seems to be his repertoire right now. And it's pretty easy to get a handle on it. So they're sitting on that cutter, and so like the best thing that he can do with that cutter is locate it, because when he locates it at the edge of each zone, he's totally fine. He's going to be okay. But when it starts to kind of edge towards the middle of the plate, he's going to get tattooed. So yeah, there was a couple of things that I noticed. A, these batters are sitting on his cutter. That's a fact. B, once he gets to that third time round the order, he's leaving his pitches up in the zone. And yeah, you can see massively the difference between his location in the first, say, 3+ innings, and then the fourth and the fifth inning, it starts to really, really break down quickly. So those are the few things that I picked up on with Nasty Nestor. He's not very nasty anymore. I think we could settle on that. He ain't nasty anymore, but he's still Nestor. And we just need him to. Listen, he gave you 5 innings of 2-run ball against a good Mariner ball club. Yep. That's fine. And there wasn't too many hard hit balls either. That was good too. It's just a matter of, I think he needs to use his changeup more. He needs to be mixing that changeup with his fastball and kind of using that cutter just a little bit less. I think he would see more benefit with that, and it's all about location with him, man, because he's never going to blow you away. But a couple of times the fastball looked better yesterday than it had in a while. Like, it was reaching the 93, 94 mark, which you kind of want from a Nestor Cortes. And if you locate that, then he's going to be fine. So it's just a matter of location with him. It's just it falls apart once he reaches that third time around the order. And third time around the order, it's not difficult for a batter to pick up on what his repertoire is. Fastball, cutter. All right, I'll sit on that cutter then. Thank you.
Yeah, you can't be a starting pitcher with 2 pitches. You know, it's you need 3 or 4. But his velocity is not, has not been the problem. It's like you just said, Donald. It's been the location of his pitches. He's not hitting where it needs to go for the swing and miss. So which is why I was thinking maybe with all the innings that he's been pitching, the last year and a half, does he just run a little out of steam? So maybe not so much a pitch count, maybe an innings limit right now. I think at this stage, I think that's something that the Yankees need to think about. I don't know if they're going to do it, but maybe put him on an innings limit. Let's save some gas in the tank for later on when we really need them.
I agree. I think after 5 innings, I think you should be already ready to use your middle relief. And if it's 5 really good innings, then you take that as a positive, and it'll help his confidence and stuff like that. And then you try and work in other pitches in order for him to gain, as the season goes on, a little bit more length in his starts. If he can start mixing in his changeup and maybe a 4th pitch with more effectiveness.
What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I don't think they can really afford to right now have him on a limit, because we still are using all of our pitching depth at the moment. But if his next start, the same thing happens again, you probably have to be like, all right, it's 2 months of he just can't pitch that third turn to the order. So instead of risking us blowing a lead, let's just get him out of there while we have a chance to win. If that's what he is the rest of the way through, even throughout the next few years, again, that's fine because he's a number 3, number 4 starter. And in today's game, if you're getting 5 good innings from your number 3 or number 4, you're going to take it. But it's still puzzling. It is still Donald broke it down great just there, and obviously Jeff Nelson is fantastic at what he does. But it's still like the numbers are just so strange to go from a 2 to like a 10. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Even with all that breakdown, it's just like that's still a drastic leap from being so good to so bad. So he needs to figure it out, though, because we can't keep giving him 5 innings because our bullpen, even though it's the best in baseball still, it's taxed. Our bullpen is throwing the most innings this year, and it's still the best in baseball. They are due for a very bad, like, maybe week or so because it happened last year as well when the pitching was really good, just fell apart for a little bit. It's going to happen again. So you're going to need your starters to start throwing more innings. And that goes for Clark Schmidt, that goes for Domingo Germán, that goes for Garrett Cole because Garrett Cole had a terrible month as well. He wasn't giving us a lot of length. So Nestor, it starts with him because he can't get you more than 5, it seems. But everyone has to start throwing more innings because this bullpen needs it.
I think Mike King is a superhero for what he's doing, man. The amount of innings that he's having to put in, especially in key spots to help starters, he's doing an incredible job, man. If you rank like the best pitchers so far this year, it's Garrett Cole 1, King 2, and I don't think there's much doubt about that. Obviously, Wandy's been really good too. But I think with the fact that Mike King has to come in and really give you innings and quality innings and not give up any runs at all, which he hasn't, has so helped this team and has allowed us to come back in games, has allowed us to even build up leads and things like that because our starters are not giving you length right now. And he's coming in and saving the day almost on a daily basis. So a shout out to Mike King, man. This guy has come back from injury and he's just been freaking phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
I was puzzled at first when they brought King in, with the way that, with the score the way it was. But then, he hasn't pitched for a few days. You want to keep him loose. You want to keep him engaged in the game. I actually, the more I thought about it, I actually like that they brought him in at that stage. I also like they let him get to 2 innings, because he was that sharp. So we were able to kind of give some of the other bullpen guys a chance to breathe. And like we talked about yesterday, Weber coming in for the final 2. So I like that they're staying away from Holmes because Holmes would have made that a safe situation.
Oh yeah,
but I think with Michael King, you're right. He's been such a key to this bullpen. I actually like the fact that they kept him a little loose and letting him, kind of throw a little extra yesterday.
Yeah, I think Ryan Weber has earned his spot in this bullpen too. He's been great. And I still don't know why we won't use Matt Crook. They've had him up for like 4 days now. We haven't seen him. He's getting sent down when Canely gets healthy. I think we could see him today because I don't know if Schmidt gives you a lot of length. So they might have Crook do some mop-up duty, then they send him down for Canely. But it should be Abreu. Should be. But it won't.
No, it could be one of those situations. They'll bring Crook in if it's another, depending on the score. Are they going to do this for a 4th straight game? It's not probable, but it's not impossible. But I think they're going to save Crook for when they really just need to empty the tank on him and send him down, just to give somebody, give the rest of the guys a day off. So
that'd be today because we don't play tomorrow, and Friday is Canely's activation day.
Yep.
So it all lines up to today would be the only day that we see Crook make his debut. Because, again, they don't want to get rid of Abreu for whatever reason. They're not going to get rid of Weber at this point. So
I think Weber's really proven his value.
But, the thing about Weber is it's weird because he just looks like he's throwing batting practice.
Yeah.
Like you said that like last week, I think. And it's just to look at the way he throws. It's like a home run derby pitcher. It's just like here, but they're not hitting it. He's throwing like 76, and they're just not hitting it. And he's getting soft.
Blowing my mind, man. It's blowing my mind. It's like an outfielder pitching. The way that he delivers it looks like someone that isn't a professional pitcher throwing the ball, but nobody can hit it. And I don't understand how, because the pitches aren't even that good. It's not like a Tim Wakefield knuckleball. It's just hanging there, but no one seems to catch up to it. It's mind-blowing to me. It's one of life's great mysteries. It's one of life's great mysteries. It's like aliens and then Weber being able to get batters out.
Weber reminds me of you're trying to play a pickup game. You need one more player. So you just go to the guy that's just kind of sitting on a swing by himself. Hey, can you just stand here, just throw it. We'll back you out. He doesn't look the part of a baseball pitcher. It's really weird.
He really does look like a movie extra. Like when you watch him in interviews, he looks like an extra, and it's so strange. But like whatever he's doing, it's working, man. And that's one thing that I will say about Brian Cashman is that he does find these guys out of nowhere. Like Cordero's been good this year, aside from a couple of bad outings. Hamilton, we miss him so much. Weber, he just finds these guys, and they end up being really good bullpen arms. Like we develop bullpen arms out of nowhere, and Ryan Weber is just like a movie extra, and he just it's so strange. But whatever it is, keep doing it. He reminds me of the way Licky was throwing the last 2 years, soft, but just couldn't hit it.
Well, that could also be a part of the equation. Is these batters, 99% of the freaking bullpen arms are throwing triple digits. So when you get the guy that's throwing 70s, 80s, their timing is so off that
that's just a great point. It out. I think there's a lot to that point.
But that's what made Licky so successful. He was focused on his location. He wasn't going to blow you away with velocity.
Yeah.
No,
Weber's was like Graham Lloyd. Remember Graham Lloyd? Kind of reminds me of Graham Lloyd.
Yeah. But
can I just touch on the umpiring crew? They had an awful game yesterday. Like the amount of times that they got calls wrong was like mind-blowing to me. Every single call they had to make on the field was wrong, and it had to go to video replay.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what about Julio Rodriguez catch? Clearly, it wasn't a catch. Like, you just look at his reaction where he's like, damn, I just missed that catch. And they were like, oh, no, he made the out. What? And then when they called Allen out at first base, when it was clear that they whiffed on tagging him, and they called him out as well. Like, bro, it was like 3 calls that had to get overturned by video replay. And it's like real incompetence. And then you also look at the umpire. It was his second day, right? His second ever game. And he threw out a batter and then threw out the manager. And I felt a lot of sympathy for the Mariners. I really did. I thought that they were getting screwed there. They got screwed in that at bat, and then out of nowhere throwing the catcher out of the game. And then the manager was like, what the hell's going on? He got thrown out. I was like, damn. Like, the umpiring crew was horrible on both sides. Like, they screwed the Yankees in a number of calls and screwed the Mariners in a number of calls, too. Like, it was just incompetence. And, I always wonder, do they feel bad when they screw up? Because, is it not embarrassing that it has to go to video replay? And, like, the Julio Rodriguez non-catch, it took 10 minutes. Like, what are we doing? We're trying to quicken up the pace of the game, but something that is so obvious. It was obvious the ball bounced into his glove, and it took them 10 minutes. Like, what are they? What is the? This needs to. They need to be like ratcheting this up, and they need to be better. They do. Like, if the baseball players need to be better, they need to be better, man. Or there's going to be robot umps very soon, because they were a horrible crew yesterday. Horrible. For both teams, really unacceptable.
Yeah, real quick before Rob puts his vote in. The only thing I want to say is, I've heard Susan. I listen to John and Susan all the time, and I hope John comes back soon. But Susan's always saying with this whole replay thing, they want to pick up the pace. You have all these different angles and all this technology in New York. If they can't figure it out in 30 seconds, just say, all right, the call stands. Don't sit there for 2 minutes and then complain that the games are too long.
Yep. And D-Rod's right. It was the first base umpire. Blew 2 calls, multiple calls. He had a horrible day.
Yeah, he threw out Raleigh, right? And it was because he was saying, well, the home plate umpire threw out Raleigh because he yelled at the first base umpire.
Yeah.
It was weird. And then the whole thing with the challenge is like they were trying to figure out would Cabrera have gone to third, but you should not have needed 10 minutes. And it's once that ball fell, it's like, all right, Cabrera would have been at third because he was running on contact. I don't know why it took them so long, but they have replay implemented and they don't use it right. And they rarely get stuff right. And when they do, it takes them forever. So maybe the game doesn't need to be sped up too much. Maybe just get better umpires. Bro,
tennis replays take a second. It's like, right, that was out of bounds. Right. Okay. That's it. Job done. Like with baseball, it's just as obvious. You got just as many cameras and it takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Like, what are we doing here? It's like so stupid. It's so stupid. He didn't make the catch, right? And he didn't tag Allen. Right. That's it. Job done. Let's move on. Move it on. You want to quicken up the game. Batters have 8 seconds to get ready. Pitchers have freaking 18 seconds to deliver the ball. But it's okay for umpires to screw up on a daily basis and take 10 to 15 minutes to decide on a replay, which it should only take a second. Honestly, it's a joke. It really is. Something needs to be done. And there's no accountability to the umpires. None.
No, that's the other problem is that there's no they get graded, and if they don't reach a certain mark, they can't be on the postseason, squads. They already made their money, not that they're making millions, but I don't imagine they're getting, minimum wage. And so it's there's no if there's no accountability, what does it matter? You would have thought that with all these new rules coming in, with the replay and all the talk with the robot umps, that you would really just see the umpiring just clean itself up. Going, all right, guys, we're pushing ourselves out of our own job. It's time to clean the shit up, and you're not seeing that. But the other thing is also with baseball this year, there are 10 new umpires. We had 10 umpires retired. A lot of the older guys that don't want to deal with all these rule changes to keep up with it.
Yep.
Because they're not going to, they've been doing it one way for so long. It's not easy to just readjust it and follow the new rule.
Yeah.
They brought up 10 new guys from the minor leagues who have been under the system for a while, and they still can't get it right.
Yeah, Jeff Nelson was on the umpire's ass right from the start. And Michael Kay's like, oh, well, give him a break. It's his second game. And he's like, no, these guys aren't students. Like, there's a job to do here. And like he was missing strikes right in the zone, and he was calling it a ball, and then the same pitch he'd be calling it a strike, and he's like, there was no consistency. That umpire was really terrible. You're right, Tats, though, that there's like very little. It almost feels like since the replays have come in that there's even less accountability now with these umpires. Like it's like okay to screw up because the replay is going to solve it anyway, but like with the amount of times they screwed up yesterday with the Allen tag, which wasn't a tag, and the Julio Rodriguez catch that wasn't a catch, and then there was another really bad call as well. What if there was no replay like it was a couple of years ago? What if the Mariners went on to win that game? Do you know what I mean? There's another factor there because those calls that they didn't make could decide a game, but it's just to thank freak for replay because it overturned the calls. But if it was a couple of years ago when there was no replay, those things could have decided a game. Those huge mistakes that are so very obvious, they could have changed the course of a ball game, and that's what I'm talking about. That's why there needs to be accountability here.
Yeah, it's go ahead, Rob.
The fact that that's the replay crew that's getting stuff wrong and taking forever. They have 80 cameras, they have 80 televisions, and they got a headquarters in New York. It should be snap of a finger. We're not trying to figure out was this pass interference. No, the ball dropped, and went into his glove. It's so clearly obvious, and it took him that long to figure out, well, would Cabrera get to third? Like, come on. Of course you can get to third. He's not a slow person. Like, if it was Donaldson running, you might have to think about it, but, like, no. Just get the decision out quicker, and you want to speed up the game, but your guys that are running your headquarters can't make such a simple decision. It took them 10 minutes almost. It was ridiculous.
And if in doubt, look at the player's reaction, because the player's instant reaction will always tell you what happened. Greg Allen was like, I wasn't tagged right from the start. And the body language of the first baseman was like he was still reaching for him. That was very obvious that it was a missed call. Julio Rodriguez, you could see his frustration that he didn't make that catch. But the umpires still call it the wrong way. That's what scares me. It's like, if in doubt, look at a player's instant reaction or a person's instant reaction. Or the first tenth of a second will tell you, because it's muscle memory, it's just instant reaction, and they always get it wrong. And that's freaking crazy to me that these umpires are getting paid to
do it. Even look at the Kelnick stolen base in the first game.
That's right.
As soon as they said he jumped up right away, went like this.
Yeah.
The manager didn't even look at the bench coach and said, should we? He automatically went, okay, because he trusted his player's instinct that the player knew what was going on. The umpires need to follow the same suit. If you see a player is that adamant that the call was wrong, just take a freaking look at it. But like Jonathan says, and believe me, I'm right there with you, Jonathan. They need a limit on these replays. They really do. And Medina, real quick, I'm really glad that your father's getting better, and hopefully in a few days he is home and resting. I have not been ignoring that.
Of course, prayers up, Medina. Take care.
Yeah, prayers to your father, man. Hope he stays on the right path. But these umpires they drive you freaking nuts. It's and it just goes to we want to hold the owners accountable. We want to hold the GMs accountable, the managers, the coaches, the first and third base coaches, even more so than the bench coach. Everybody along the line. The umpires need to be held accountable just as much. They're just as much as we say that if you know the umpire's name, it's never a good thing. But we are they are on the field. We do see what they're doing. We pay that close attention. And so the umpires really need to clean that shit up.
Yeah, for sure. But last note, let's give credit to Anthony Volpe for the home run.
Yes, let's send this.
How best to change the narrative of a struggling rookie to go and absolutely tattoo a pitch out of the ballpark. Salute.
Yeah, I think it came at the perfect time too, because it put the game out of reach and just really, at that time of the game, it was looking really positive for the Yankees. Yeah, it couldn't have come at a better time.
Even his fly out in the ninth, he hit it well. Yeah. So that's a good sign if you're starting to make better contact, because usually that means you're going to break out of it. Because if you're rolling over pitches like he has been doing, or if he's just swinging and missing, you're like, the struggles are going to continue. But when you start to make good contact, that means sooner than later, even if it takes another 4 or 5 games, but he's going to hopefully get onto a hot stretch, because we've seen him have the hot stretch already. We just need to get it and keep it, keep it steady for longer periods of time. But he did hit the ball very well yesterday, which is a great sign. Maybe the day off did him good.
What I also like is the fact that he didn't allow the error to affect him in his future at-bats. I was really worried about that, because after the error and then a bad first at-bat, I was like, do we have a Volpe problem? But no, because he came back and absolutely tattooed a pitch and then played well after that. That shows good mental fortitude that he's able just to overcome an error and just still crush the ball, because Gleyber Torres couldn't do that when he was a short and he was making errors. It was affecting his at-bats. But Volpe crushes a pitch and all's well that ends well.
Yep. And it's I think that, like Rob said, the day off might have been a positive. Everybody, other players around him stepping up, and I think the one thing with Volpe that a lot of people forget is he's a rookie. You know, he's gonna, he's going to make, he's gonna make errors. Yeah, TC, a lot of people forget Jeter made 22 errors his rookie year.
Wow.
Okay, a lot of people forget that. Well, he's no Jeter. Well, he's, Jeter, didn't have the best rookie. He didn't have the best start to his career. He made a lot of little errors. But what they do, like what they did with Jeter, and they're doing now with Volpe, they're letting them work through it. And I think that this shows that really this is just a little blip on the radar. I think he's figuring it out. Like even Rob said, his at bats yesterday looked a lot better than what we've seen.
Yeah.
He's being patient at the plate. He's trying to wait for his pitch. I think that last night is one of those games that can put him back on track. And so, I do expect that to happen. Is it going to happen where he's going to turn into a 500 hitter? No. But, as long as you can get, a solid game out of him, we'll take it. And just let everything fall into place.
I think he needs to stay in the 7 spot because that's where he's at his best.
He's more comfortable.
He has like an 800 plus OPS in the 7 spot where everything else is bad. So, he's a 237 hitter batting 7th. He's 163 batting 9th. And then his OPS as in the 7 spot is, I just had it, 865.
Wow.
It's 675 leading off and 489 batting 9th. So I think he needs to stay in that 7 spot.
Good point.
Very good. So, well, hopefully, the analytical guys see the same numbers we are. But
it's right there. It's right there for him.
Well, you don't know what's in their book. Yeah.
Will the Yankees give Peraza a call? They freaking should.
I think they should. I really do. I think it's time. I also with Bader down, I'm surprised that they didn't call up Florial. So
he's not on the 40 man.
So that's the other thing. And
Cordero
I was actually afraid to bring that name up because who might pop in. But it's the moves were the moves they made yesterday for the roster. It is what it is. They're winning games, so there's really nothing to complain about right now about it. There's no point in getting all pissed off at a situation that hasn't happened. So, but it is what it is. Let's go for the sweep tonight. We got Schmidt on the mound. We do have a healthy bullpen. We have an offense that's clicking a little bit. And I think that this can be one of those. We can take care of business tonight. We shall see. But we will be back. When it'll be tomorrow, Thursday's an off day, so we'll be back Friday, and we will break down the upcoming series for the weekend. So just remember, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video out, let everybody know where all the fun is happening. And as always, wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.